Good morning, students. So myself, Suman, head of the department ECE, Vigyan's Law Institute of Technology and Science. And in this particular semester, I am going to teach you the subject. So VLSI design. So actually, this is a continuation for STLD and DICA subjects. Already you learned in your previous semester STLD subject as well as DICA subject. So the continuation for those two is VLSI design. So in those two subjects, you learned about how to realize this circuit with minimum number of components by means of using K-maps, Quine-McCluskey methods. So using of all those techniques, so you realized the circuit with minimum number of components. And while coming for DICA, so previously in STLD you learned regarding K-maps and Quine-McCluskey. While coming for DICA, so you learned about what are all the ICs that are available outside for encoder, decoder, multiplexer, and what is the operation, internal operation of that particular ICs. You studied all those in STLD and DICA. While coming for VLSI design, so in this particular subject, you are going to study about how to fabricate an IC fabrication steps. So that we are going to learn, and also we are going to studying about the basic electrical properties of the mass circuits. So by means of knowing the basic electrical properties, we can able to analyze so what is the propagation delay of the given circuit and power dissipation and how much area they are going to occupy. So because while you are realizing ICs, we have to mention so all these parameters for whatever circuit we realize. For that, in addition to the functionality, we must mention so how much is the power dissipation for that particular circuit, how much area it occupied, and what is the propagation delay of that particular circuit. So to mention all these, so we need to study about the basic electrical properties of mass circuits. By means of using those electrical properties for the mass circuits, so we can able to mention all these three: area, power dissipation, and propagation delay. So throughout this particular VLSI design, we are going to studying about all these. Okay. So while coming to the first unit, so introduction to basic electrical properties of mass circuits. So in this particular unit, we are going to studying about what are all the fabrication steps that we have to realize an IC. Okay. So anyway, here we are supposed to realize transistors. For all those transistors, so how you can able to realize and what are all the fabrication steps involved in that we are going to learn, and in addition to that, the basic electrical properties of mass circuits. So regarding this, we are going to study in the first unit. Coming to the first topic, so which is introduction to IC technology. So under this, I am going to explain the brief history regarding the digital electronics circuits. Okay. So coming to the first one, the first digital electronic systems are made up of relays. Initial days in the sense in early 1930s, digital electronic systems were realized by means of using the relays. Okay. So relays we can also call them as magnetically controlled switches. Okay. So they can't able to perform any mathematical operation because they will act as simply as a switch, just to switch on and off. That's it. That is the functionality of that particular relay. So using of those, we can't able to do any mathematical operations, but the thing was we can able to use it as a switch. So then thereafter, in 1940s, okay, in 1940s, vacuum tubes were introduced. Okay, so after relays, next vacuum tubes were introduced. So then thereafter, so the digital electronic circuits are realized by means of using that particular vacuum tubes. So in that process, the first digital computer, so which is general purpose computer, so which was realized by means of considering that particular vacuum tubes is ENIAC, Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer. So that is the abbreviation for that. By means of using vacuum tubes, the first general purpose computer they realized, which is ENIAC, Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer. So that too it was realized in the year 1946. Okay, in the year 1946 they realized the using of vacuum tubes. and later on, so another one computer, so which is a commercial purpose computer. So that was realized using of vacuum tubes, that is UNIVAC 1. Okay, so UNIVAC 1 is nothing but the abbreviation for that particular one is Universal Automatic Computer 1. So this is the first commercial purpose computer. ENIAC is the general purpose computer, first general purpose computer, and UNIVAC is the first commercial purpose computer, and these two was realized by means of using the vacuum tubes itself. ENIAC was realized in the year 1946 and UNIVAC 1 was realized in the year 1951. If you look at the physical structure of these ENIAC and UNIVAC, so they are seems to be very bulky. The main drawback of those systems which we realized with the vacuum tubes are, so in size, so those systems, digital systems are very large. So ENIAC, if you consider, so where it consists of 80 feet long and 8.5 feet high, and 18,000 vacuum tubes are required in that particular one to realize, okay, ENIAC. So that is of the physical structure of that particular ENIAC seems to be. So to realize ENIAC, where it requires 18,000 vacuum tubes and having a size of 8.5 feet height, 80 feet long, and also it requires 1 lakh watts of power. Okay, power consumption is 1 lakh watts. So considering this particular one, we can able to say that system is so very large, and it will occupy a big room. Okay, so because of that, even though those are all the first computers, those are all not that much popular. Even though by means of considering all these, they can able to perform the basic mathematical operations only. For that reason, ENIAC and UNIVAC, even though those are all the first general and first commercial purpose, those are all not that much popular because of its size. So because of that much components we are supposed to use to realize that particular one. So for that reason, it seems to be very complex and cost as well. So because of that, those are all not that much popular. Okay, then after that, so transistor was realized in the year 1947 by John Bardeen, and later 2 years in the 1949 BJT was developed by William Shockley and Walter Brattain. So all these three were put together at Bell Laboratories and they realized the transistor, and after that, immediately after that, in the year 1949 BJTs. Okay, so then thereafter, after realizing this particular one, okay, transistor, there are several logic gates was developed based upon that particular one, but the first bipolar digital logic gate was developed by Harris in the year 1956. Okay, so he developed the first bipolar logic gate. So in the year 1956. Okay, so then thereafter, so several BJT logic gates are developed. So based upon the different logic families, and we know what all the different logic families that are existed over there. And also in the year 1958, IC was invented by Jock Keating. So then thereafter, majority of BJTs were logic families were implemented in that particular ICs. So from there onwards, so many logic families were developed from that particular realization of ICs. So some of them are starts from RTL, DTL, DCTL. So RTL stands for resistor transistor logic. So DTL, diode transistor logic. DCTL, diode coupled transistor logic. Then TTL, transistor logic. ECL, emitter coupled logic. I2L, integrated injection logic, and HTL, high threshold logic. All these are all the different logic families that they are developed. So under the BJT. Okay, all these are all different logic families under BJT. Even though it consists of this many logic families, but so we need to remember only two. The first and most important one is TTL, transistor logic. So which is very popular under the BJT logic family compared to remaining all. So the reason is why TTL is much popular compared to remaining all means. So TTL having a capability of high integration density. High integration density is nothing but So within a given area, we can able to insert more number of transistors. That we can able to achieve by means of considering the TTL technology. So because of that reason, more functionalities you can able to realize on a certain given area compared to remaining all logic families. So in that regard, TTL is very popular while in the case of the under BJT logic families. More than 90% of BJT ICs are realized using of TTL itself because of that advantage, which is high integration density. So that is the main advantage of that particular one. And second, after TTL, so we need to study about another important one is ECL, emitter coupled logic. Okay. So the advantage of emitter coupled logic is high speed. So that is the main advantage of emitter coupled logic. Even though it consists of high speed, but the drawback of that particular one is, so where the circuit realization seems to be complex and also costly. So because of that, wherever speed is ultimate thing, so in such case you can go for the ECL. So for examples, if you are realizing the supercomputers, while coming for the supercomputers, the speed is the ultimate thing. We are not going to bother about how much complexity and what is the cost of that particular one. So we have to bother about whether we can able to achieve very high speeds or not. That's it. In such case, we can opt for the ECL, emitter coupled logic. So in that regard, in supercomputers, we can able to consider emitter coupled logic. So these two only very important one while under the BJT logic families. TTL because of its advantage of high integration density, ECL because of its advantage of high speed. So that is what regarding that particular one. And later on, okay, in the year 1970s, MOSFETs was introduced. Okay, but originally, so a paper was proposed, okay, in a patent by J. Lilienfeld. J. Lilienfeld in the year 1925 itself, and by O'Hare in 1935 independently. Okay, so but in general, okay, MOSFETs. So what we are going to study is MOSFETs were introduced in the year 1970s. So but actually a paper was proposed on that particular MOSFET by J. Lilienfeld in the early 1925 itself, and independently by O'Hare in the year 1935 itself. Even though they realized, okay, they proposed a paper on MOSFET in the year 1925-35 itself. So at that time, why those are all not that much popular means, so while they are realizing that particular one, they face some of the problems like gate stability problems. So at that time, so with that particular papers, okay, so they unable to resolve that particular gate stability problem. So because of that, they left that particular one, and later on the BJT logic families are developed, and once they reached the maximum peak extent in BJTs also, next they tried once again to resolve that particular gate stability problems. That gate stability problem was resolved in the year 1970s. So from there onwards, so MOSFET era was started. Okay, so that is what regarding that particular introduction to that particular MOSFETs. So finally started to take off in full in the early 1970s. From there onwards, so MOSFET ICs were introduced. Then in that particular MOSFET, the first logic formula was developed is PMOS, P-channel metal oxide semiconductor. Okay, so because of P-channel we mentioned, so channel must be made up of holes. So by means of using that particular PMOS technology, initially they realized the calculators. Okay, but the drawback of PMOS is they are not that much speed because holes. So if you compare both electrons and holes, holes are 2.5 times lesser speed compared to the electrons. So in that regard, so the main drawback of PMOS technology is, so it is slow. So because of that, next they move on to the NMOS technology, and by means of using the NMOS technology, they realized that the first microprocessor such as in the year 1971 4004 and in the year 1974 8080. So all these are all realized. Okay, so by means of using the NMOS technology, NMOS nothing but N-channel metal oxide semiconductor. The advantage of NMOS technology is it was faster compared to the PMOS. The reason is Here channel will be formed by means of electrons. Anyway, electrons mobility is 2.5 times greater compared to the holes mobility. Anyway, in EDC point of view, always we are going to study electrons are 2 times faster or double. Okay, speed is double compared with the holes, but the actual thing is 2.5 times greater mobility electrons have compared to the holes mobility. So because of that, so later on some small memories and first microprocessors 4004, 8080, all these are all realized by means of using NMOS technology. Okay. Then after that, so they moved to the CMOS technology. So after NMOS, first PMOS, then NMOS, then after that CMOS. CMOS stands for complementary metal oxide semiconductor, and we know that CMOS we can able to realize by means of combining both NMOS and PMOS. That means combining both NMOS technology and PMOS, okay, and realizing on a single IC, we can able to construct a CMOS. So by means of using CMOS, CMOS is having several advantages compared to PMOS and NMOS. So those are all two of the major advantages why we will go for CMOS is the power dissipation is less compared to any of the previous technologies. Even if you compare with the BJT logic families or with the PMOS and NMOS, CMOS is having the less power dissipation. Power consumption is very low compared to remaining all logic families. So that is the main criteria which was required while you are realizing the digital circuits, where digital circuits needs to consume less power. So that capability is there for the CMOS technology. So that is the first advantage. And second one is high integration density. That means within a given area we can able to insert more number of transistors. So that is what high integration density, and also it consists of high input impedance and several advantages are there. But anyway, mainly we are going to focus on these two advantages. One is power dissipation is less, and second one is high integration density. Previously we mentioned the high integration density is high for TTL. Even if you compare with the TTL also, CMOS is having the high integration density. So because of these two main reasons, okay, and also high input impedance, okay, so all these reasons, so we can able to prefer the CMOS over all other logic families. For that reason only, I would say majority of ICs, more than 90% of ICs, they are made up of CMOS technology only. Okay. Then, so after CMOS technology, one more technology was introduced, which is the BiCMOS. Suppose if I want to get the advantages of both bipolars as well as CMOS, then obviously I have to go for the BiCMOS. So in BiCMOS, where ICs was realized by means of combining both bipolar as well as CMOS. Combining those two, we can able to realize the BiCMOS circuits. Okay. Then how we are going to combine? If you want to realize a circuit using of both bipolar and CMOS, so coming to that particular circuit, at the input side, what is the requirement any particular circuit need to have is high input impedance. Okay, that capability is for CMOS is there. So in that regard, while coming for the input side, we can able to realize with CMOS. And while you are realizing the logic, so logic, while you are realizing logic, so we are supposed to required parameters are that technology must have the high integration density and also less power dissipation. Once again, all these that particular CMOS consists of in that aspect, inputs as well as logic of that particular circuit will be realized by means of using the CMOS technology. And while we are looking at the output side, so output side the capability that particular technology must have is, so where it can able to generate the large currents. Okay, high currents they can able to drive. That capability is there for the BJTs. So in that aspect, so at the output side we are going to consider the BJTs. So this is how an IC of BiCMOS seems to be. So at the input side, and to realize the logic, we are supposed to go for the CMOS technology. And so at the output side, because of BJTs having the capability of, they can able to drive the large currents at the output. By means of that, fan out is going to increase. So in that aspect, output side we are going to prefer the bipolars. So But even though, so we are going to get both the advantages of bipolars as well as CMOS. BiCMOS is not that much popular. Why? Because so it is very difficult to integrate two different technologies on a single IC. That is the main problem, and also BiCMOS realization seems to be very complex, and also cost also very high. So in all these regards, all these drawbacks, BiCMOS is not that much popular. So because of that reason, outside majority of ICs were made up of CMOS technology only. Throughout this particular VLSI also, we are mainly going to focus on that particular CMOS technology only. So this is what regarding the introduction to IC technology, how digital circuits are emerged, and finally how it reaches to CMOS technology. So this is what regarding introduction part to the ICs. And next one is Moore's first law. So what is Moore's first law? As you all know that, so Jordan Moore predicted that the number of transistors on an IC getting doubled for every 18 months. So that is what the Moore's first law. Okay, Moore predicted that the number of transistors on an IC getting doubled for every 18 months, 1.5 years. Okay, so that is what he predicted. So based upon that, so here we mentioned the graph for that. So as day by day technology advancing, the number of transistors on an IC also getting doubled. So but once if it reaches to the maximum extent, if you look at this particular graph, for that first one we mentioned with the actual and next one is predicted. So as per the prediction, this is the actual path it is to take. So but so once if it reaches to the technology maximum extent, then thereafter there is a decrease in that particular, increase in the number of transistors on an IC. So because of that, so actual seems to be like this, but Moore predicted such as like this. Okay, so this graph is going to represent by means of increasing in year by year how the number of transistors on an IC gets increased. Okay, so that is what here we mentioned by means of considering on the x-axis here, on the y-axis number of transistors per chip.